Also with us here in studio, Carly Shimkus, former State Department spokeswoman Morgan Ortagus, and in the center seat, special report anchor Bret Baier. He's also the author of the new book, To Rescue the Republic, which we are getting into a bit later. Now, critics of Vice President Kamala Harris are not only slamming her appearance in that NASA video for children, but also poking fun at the name of the production company behind it, Sinking Ship Entertainment.
Oh, boy.
While noting that it's based in Toronto, meaning the Borders are teamed up with a Canadian company. Now, this all comes as the VP faces heavy criticism over the fact that kid actors were used in the video in scenes like this one. Watch.
I wonder who the head of the Space Council is.
Are you kidding? The head of the Space Council is the Vice President!
My mom was a scientist, so I just love the idea of exploring the unknown. You're gonna literally see the craters on the moon with your own eyes.
Oh my goodness.
With your own eyes, I'm telling you, it is gonna be unbelievable. Always dream with ambition. Have big dreams.
Bret, this is a vice president whose distinguishing feature has become how tone-deaf and frankly inappropriate she is, right? We have her calling Memorial Day a long weekend to passing out cookies with her face on them, tossing coins and going to bakeries while the southern border implodes and Americans die in Afghanistan, and she pushes back, snapping at any journalist that tries to ask real questions. And now we have this, Bret. A fake video with fake kids for the very real purpose of having us buy in to her authenticity.
When I first read this, I thought it was a Babylon Bee story that was just kind of joking about this, and then realized that it was true. Even the name of the company, Sinking Ship, really is quite something. Listen, the vice president has managed to stay out of the headlines and kind of missing in a lot of the big legislative battles along the border, other places, and by doing that, in September into October, her Gallup poll ratings were actually 6 points higher than President Biden. But this effort and this kind of inauthentic pitch is really a tough thing politically.
And Morgan, she's also the border czar. So here we have her trotting around with child actors in Canada and ignoring what we're about to show a photo of, which is dozens of unaccompanied migrant children abandoned at the border. She has maintained, she is dedicated to underserved children, and yet there were no real children interested in space on that video who she could have lifted up, and she ignores suffering children on the southern border.
Yeah, did any of you guys watch the show Veep? Does anybody remember that? I love that show. I thought it was really funny. And when I read this story yesterday, a guy who works for me sent me this story, and I just immediately texted back, no way. No way. This can't be real. Listen, we had our share of issues in the Trump administration. I called it sometimes it felt like a cross between the West Wing and Veep. But, I mean, poor Kamala Harris and her staff. It's just every week's a new Veep episode. And there's just things a lot of times where I think it's just poor staff work. Like, you don't need to hire children, child actors. In fact, normally if a corporation does that in a commercial, they actually have to disclose. And you would see in the commercial and regulated font that's mandated by the regulators, these are child actors, that sort of thing. So it's just like constantly missteps by the staff that I don't understand. And then just a performance. Listen, there's a reason that regular big-time actors always say, don't act with kids in a movie. And I think when you see the vice president's acting and this particular NASA video, you know why they say that.
All right, and Carly, the internet is having a field day. To drill down a little bit further into Morgan's point about the juxtaposition between this real life and the Veep fictional life. So we have Breitbart's Joel Pollack tweeting, they couldn't hire an actor to play the VP too? We have another tweeting virtually indistinguishable from a Veep episode.
Yeah.
We have another tweeting, oh, stop it. I just heard the children in the cringe-worthy video with Kamala Harris were child actors. Everything in the Biden administration is fake, including their White House set that they like to broadcast from.
Well, I think we're learning that Kamala Harris's office didn't hire the kids because this was a NASA video, but they were hired. I mean, they are child actors, so I don't know. Take that point however you want to. You do have to kind of reflect on the Trump administration in this moment as well. And whether you liked President Trump or not, he was authentic. And what he said, you knew when he said it, it was coming from him. And there is a lot of micromanaging going on with President Biden. As for the vice president, people in Washington have long said that being the vice president is one of the worst jobs because you don't have a lot of authority. You know, you're not a senator, you're not a governor, you're not the president. And the president gives you a lot of jobs that he doesn't want to do, which is why President Biden gave Kamala Harris the border job. But imagine if she owned that. And imagine if she went to poverty-stricken countries and delivered speeches on, you know, anti-corruption and
why does she have to go there? Why can't she go to the border?
Sure, but I'm saying that for her politically, if she wants to spin this into a progressive political win, conservatives are never going to like her. But if she wanted to spin this into a progressive political win, she could have really honed in on that. Instead, she just ran from it. I think that if you are the vice president, the one thing that you can't do is become a political liability. And she is quickly becoming that.
Harris, what I wanted to ask you about in part is something that Carly and Morgan referenced, which is sort of the team aspect, right? And the 30,000 foot viewpoint of this, which is that, yes, so her team has released an official response, which only consisted of them saying, well, we didn't hire the child actors, but at the end of the line, they are still responsible for that project. Who is vetting all of these projects, and why do they continue churning out such cringeworthy things that the world rallies against?
So we have seen something go progressively worse, but I consider it to just be progressively different, right? Because she just hired a whole new crisis communications team.
That's right.
So what we're seeing is everybody's flexing. Everybody's trying to come up with a better idea than the previous idea. And so you just keep trying until you start to win. It's like an NFL game. It's like, you know, you've lost all 3 quarters. Now it's the 4th quarter. They're putting in the backup quarterback. And they're going to try to make it different somehow. Well, different isn't always good. And in this case, a Canadian company, which is, I think, handled the casting.
Yep.
I think that's right. Right? You couldn't even go American. And you can't convince me that her team didn't know that these kids were not the children of parents. Because what does a vice president do that a vice president is often tasked with? No matter who you're with, no matter what administration. You're a liaison. My goodness gracious, you'd want some down off-camera time with those kids. Learn about their families. Build up some real relationships. So when the cameras are on, you can say, oh, Billy, I just love it when you tell me about the blah, blah, blah. I know you love space. We couldn't even get them to have off-camera genuine moments that would give the on-camera better. Because had they done it, we would have seen it. But I want to take it back to something more